By now, you have likely read Sherry Franke's book, House of My Mother, or at least seen clips from the solo interviews that she did about a month ago when doing book promotion. And even more recently, you've probably watched the Hulu docuseries Devil in the Family, The Fall of Ruby Franke, which dropped last week. It contains first-hand accounts from Ruby's husband and her 2 oldest children. The public is having a hard time reconciling their feelings towards Ruby's husband, Kevin. Well, soon-to-be ex-husband, as he has filed for divorce. Is he a brainwashed victim? Or was he at the very least negligent and complicit in the treatment that was inflicted on his children? Obviously, this is not a black and white issue, but I will say that I am a little surprised that Kevin Franke has seemingly escaped criminal culpability when it comes to at least the abandonment of his 4 youngest kids. It was sad for me to see in this docuseries that Kevin seems to still be very much disassociating from everything that has transpired in his family, and he still seems pretty delusional about his soon-to-be ex-wife. We have a lot to talk about. Let's get into today's video. Hey everyone, what's up? It's Sarah, and this is Sarah Spills. On August 30th, 2023, notorious family vlogger Ruby Franke was arrested along with her business partner and therapist Jody Hildebrandt on horrific charges of child maltreatment. Ruby Franke brought her whole family, her husband, her 6 kids, into the limelight when she featured her family as well as her strict parenting style on her family YouTube channel, 8 Passengers. Ruby and the Franke family amassed a following of millions of followers over the years. Fans started growing concerned with some of Ruby's disciplinary choices that included taking away her oldest son's bedroom for months, being proud of refusing to bring a lunch for her kindergarten-age daughter when that daughter forgot hers at home, singling out 2 of her kids to not receive any Christmas presents one year, and also threatening to cut the head off of one of her daughter's favorite stuffed animals. All of that was content featured on the 8 Passengers YouTube channel. Ruby pled guilty to 4 counts of child abuse and was sentenced in February of 2024 to at least 4 years in prison. In Utah, they have a sentencing guideline, so she will spend between 4 and 30 years in prison. It's been about a year since her sentencing, and now some of her victims are speaking out publicly for the first time. It's absolutely heartbreaking hearing from her children. What they have endured is unimaginable and something no child should ever have to live through. Sherry and Chad, Ruby and Kevin's 2 oldest children, speak out as they reconcile what has happened to them and pick up the pieces of their shattered childhoods. Kevin is speaking out too, and in a lot of ways, he elicits sympathy. He has been through a lot. But then there are times he is frustratingly delusional about everything that has transpired. When doing press for the Hulu special, Kevin really throws much of the blame of what has happened to his family in 2023 on Jody Hildebrandt, the therapist that came into the Franke family's lives and who ultimately became business partners with Ruby.
One of the things that I've been so upset about with the popular media's narrative of this experience is how they've collapsed the timeline. And they've taken the events of 2023, which were criminal, which were atrocious and horrific, and they've just smashed them all the way back into previous years and extrapolated and assumed that those types of criminal activities were occurring years before Jody entered our family, and that's just simply not true.
Anyone who has been a longtime viewer of 8 Passengers knows that what Kevin is saying in this clip is simply not true. Ruby's disciplinary tactics had been causing concern long before Jody entered the picture. Sherry actually talks about this in one of the interviews that she did for her book.
Sherry, who says she was cut off from the family when she left for college, detailing abuse she says her mother inflicted throughout her childhood.
When I was younger, around like 5, 6, like Ruby was really physical, like, you know, whether it was like a slap to the lip or a slap to the cheek. When I would practice the piano, you know, like her hand would slam, and like it was really scary.
It was actually before Ruby teamed up with Jody that the 8 Passengers channel experienced its public cancellation, if you will, when Ruby let Chad reveal on the channel the fact that his room was taken away and he had been sleeping on a beanbag for months. I think we are all wondering, as a parent, how could Kevin let that happen? And legally, is he culpable for anything with what happened to his children that he had parental rights to? I'm honestly shocked that Kevin has thus far escaped any legal ramifications from all of this. His 4 youngest children hadn't seen him in over a year when they were found in August of 2023. Sherry had been calling the police because she was hearing her siblings were being left alone for days on end. How is that not, at the very least, neglect on Kevin's part? Kevin has a reason for this. He was extremely brainwashed by the time he was invited to no longer live in his own home.
Going into the no contact separation, I was terrified that I was going to lose my marriage, that Ruby was going to ask for a divorce. I was 1,000% compliant by that point. I was going to support her over all my children, period.
Look, I have no doubt that Kevin was mentally compromised by this point, and that does make me feel sorry for him. But Kevin says he was going to support Ruby over his children, and I want to correct that. Kevin supported Ruby at the expense of his children, and it almost cost 2 of them their lives. And I don't think that Kevin is fully grasping that fact, and that makes it hard for me to sympathize with him when he seems to still be very much existing in, and I hate to use this word, but a state of delusion.
Why didn't you stand up to say, this is nonsense? You know what I mean?
I know. And if I dwell on that question, it eats me alive.
You don't need to dwell on it, Kevin, but you do need to acknowledge it and accept it as reality in order to work through it. I don't think Kevin has really accepted the reality of the state of his family. It's heartbreaking what has happened, and he has played a part in the atrocities perpetrated on his children. In the Hulu docuseries, Kevin talks about the day Ruby got arrested, what went down, and how that was one of the first times he had heard from her in over a year.
I had no communication with the family in over a year. My phone started ringing, and I looked at it. It was Ruby and then the heart emoji. She was calling me out of the blue. So I answered it. I was so emotional. For the first time in over a year, I was having a conversation with the woman that I loved. She was in a panic. She said, I have some explaining to do. And she started to share with me that the 2 younger children were demonically possessed. And one of the younger kids, he'd gotten out, and she said, I can only imagine the lies he's telling the police right now. You need to go pick up our children from the police station. This is your chance to redeem yourself. I was going to go get those kids, and I was going to bring them back home.
Again, I want to feel sorry for Kevin, I really do, but how do you show up at a police station, find out the state that your children are in, and continue to lie for your wife that you haven't seen in over a year? I just don't get it. I say all the time on my main channel when I'm discussing the Browns and Sister Wives that reasons are not justifications. Kevin may be telling us why he acted the way he did. He was hopelessly brainwashed by Ruby and Jody. But that is not a justification for abandoning your kids. Thus, in my opinion, making you complicit in their abuse. Parents owe their children a duty of care, and Kevin failed his children big time. And I want to sit here and say, poor guy. I know he knows how bad he fucked up, but then he says stuff during the docuseries and press interviews that makes me question if he does know how bad he's fucked up. In the press interviews, he's trying to make it seem like the criminal abuse didn't start until after Jody entered the picture. But it's like, Okay, explain the beanbag thing with Chad then. What about what Sherry is describing? That was all pre-Jody. Where were you, Kevin, when Chad was going off to bed every night to sleep on a beanbag in your basement? And then, at the very end of the docuseries, he has the audacity to say this.
Do you still love her?
Definitely. I've always loved her.
Even though she abused the kids, you still love her?
Oh yeah, the actions that she did are atrocious, but I still feel a longing. I miss her. All of the delivery rooms, all of the moments holding our children. It is easy for the world to hate that woman. I cannot turn off all of those other memories.
You know, Sherry, the oldest child, lived through many of these fond memories that Kevin is recollecting too, and she had this to say about Ruby, and I hope Kevin sees what she has to say here.
Where are you at with Ruby now?
I will never talk to her again. Like, whether she's the most apologetic person in the world or not, like, that doesn't change anything for me. We have one childhood and one mom, and that was mine.
Sherry is right. The children had one childhood, and this was theirs. And Kevin, as their father with parental rights, owed them a duty of care that he failed them on. I don't think Kevin is a monster in the same way that Ruby and Jody are, but he definitely failed his kids big time. I'm honestly shocked that he's gotten off scot-free as far as legal consequences are concerned. Let me know your thoughts on the Hulu docuseries on Sherry's book if you've read it. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Instagram, Threads, X, and TikTok at Reality Squad, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Take care. Have a good one. Much love.